Hi everyone, welcome to Beyond the Thousand Days. My name is Sonia and this is part 2 of our voyage to Guyana. When we sailed down, we had 5 people with us, but the very first day that we were in Guyana, 3 out of the 5 left immediately. They had other things that they wanted to do. So we had 2 crew members on board with us. And eventually they too left, and it was just Reid, myself, and our little son Darshan. We had 2 main concerns when sailing down to Guyana. 1, pirates. Pirates were said to be offshore the coast of South America, attacking boats, stealing their equipment. That was something we were really concerned about when approaching the shore of Guyana, because we didn't know what we would find, whether it was safe to sail through there or not. Luckily, where we were anchored, it was out of the main ocean pathways. We were kind of on a tributary off of the river, so we were really out of the way. Anybody who was not part of the local community going up or down the river would definitely be noticed. Our second concern was how shallow the entranceway into the river would be, because the area in the northern part of South America tends to be pretty shallow. A lot of silt coming out of the rivers into the ocean, and it goes on for miles out to sea. So we had charts of the ocean and of the waterway in which we were navigating, but those charts may not necessarily be 100% accurate. Things can change even within a year. So that was a major concern for us, whether our 10-foot keel would be able to navigate the waterways in Guyana. One of the first things we saw when we got there in the Demerara River was this guy who took care of these boats with 4 huge motors on them. There were like 250 horsepower motors, 4 of them in a row on this rinky-dink looking boat. And he told us that these boats went up waterfalls. Now, they may not be waterfalls with huge drops in them, but obviously they were revving up river of some kind of white water and supplying things like gasoline and other provisions to people in the interior of the country. And these areas were completely inaccessible. There were no roads, and the only way to get to them was by boats. And boats like these would go up a river in white water to get things, supplies, to people doing either mining or logging in the interior. Sometimes, he said, one of these barrels of like gasoline or something would fall off the boat, and sometimes they had to have people get off the boat to lessen the weight so that the boat could actually make it up these areas where all these motors were needed, and even then the boat was completely taxed. And so either you were schlepping in the mud or you had to go rescue the barrels that fell off the boat. I mean, this sounded really rough and crazy, but these are the types of boats that he was watching. And he was a great water guy because his father had been doing the same job, and he knew all about where to find us a guide to get us from the Demerara River into the Essequibo River. When we got into the Essequibo River, it was a colorful place. The Essequibo River is actually the 3rd largest river in all of South America, and it goes all the way through Guyana into the mountains, and on the other side of the mountains is Brazil and the Amazonian rainforest. So Guyana is very close to the Amazon rainforest. And then we were guided to the Supanam River. And the reason we wanted to go to the Supanam River was because we had a friend who told us about this place. He said, there's a place in Guyana that has boat building, old-fashioned wooden boat building, and you gotta go there because you can get cheap tropical hardwoods and reasonable labor, and it's just a cool place. And on the Supanam River, it's brackish water in the beginning, and further upriver it becomes fresh and a lot slower moving. But where we were in the Supernam River, sometimes the current could be 4 knots. It would just rush by, and you didn't want to be in that water or be in a little dinghy when the current was really strong. Here you see the wooden boats being built by the boatyard that was across from where we had our boat. We had to walk through that boatyard and all the skeleton boats in order to get to the road and the rest of the town of Supernam. And right outside of the boatyard was a lot of greenery, lush tropical greenery, coconut trees, palm trees. It was just really beautiful. One morning, down the river comes this fisherman in a boat, and he wants to know if we'd like to buy a piece of this catfish he's selling. And we look over, and the catfish is as big as a little dolphin. I've never seen catfish that big, but okay. Well, we didn't really have a taste for catfish, so we said no thanks. But apparently this wasn't some kind of demand, because he was pretty certain he was going to sell it in the town, and he gave us first dibs on that, so that was really nice of him. Guyana has a lot of wildlife, as you might imagine, but what it has the most of are mosquitoes. They come out at night and they're just like in swarms, so if you ever go to Guyana, bug spray. Serious bug spray. One day, I was cooking in the galley of the boat, and I heard this whoosh right by my ear, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I look around, and it comes back whoosh right by my ear, and it's a bat, and I'm like, ah, there's bats in the boat. So Reid takes this butterfly net thing, and he goes chasing after the bat, and the bat is really quick. I mean, for creatures who don't see, they have an excellent sense of where things are, and they can pass you within like a centimeter. And there he was, like chasing this bat who was outrunning him. But finally he got the bat, and there you see it's he was our first bat on the boat. And there have been others. Apparently they leave in the day and they come back in the evening, like around 5:30, and they find a closet that they like on the boat, and they hang upside down and sleep there, or whatever it is they do. I mean, it's just kind of weird. What we really went down there to do, however, was fix the boat. Now, the schooner had been on the longest sea voyage in history from 2007 to 2010. It was at sea nonstop, no going to shore in that entire time, just sailing, and we did the longest sea voyage in history. Well, when the boat came back, Reid, myself, and our son were living on the boat in New York City for about a year afterwards, and we had lived on the boat through a New York City winter. And we decided that we didn't want to do that again. We wanted to go somewhere warm for winter. And anyway, the boat needed a lot of work, so that was a big reason why we came down to Guyana. So to give you an idea of just how much work the boat needed, there was painting, varnishing, some wooden interior repairs, not to mention the rudder that broke on the way down. We had to find a welder and weld the rudder back into one piece. The mast had a little bit of rot at the top, and so we would have that in our plans to take the mast out, find wood to replace the bit of rot and make it good and new, and the list goes on and on and on. Darshan, our son who was 3 at the time, he wanted to help out and learn the ropes, or learn the tools of the trade, so to speak, and he got his chance to do that. But there were, of course, times when the boat was a complete construction site. I mean, fiberglass going everywhere, and he really shouldn't have been on the boat. So we put Darshan in school. We had to row our dinghy from the boat to the shore and then walk across the boatyard that was there to the road, and we borrowed a bike, but we could also walk. It wasn't that far away. And he would ride or walk to school among the cows and the goats on the road, and he would go to school with the locals in nursery school. We had our routine. In the morning, Reid would drop him off, and in the afternoon, I would pick him up. By this time, I went local and got rid of the silly safari blue hat, and I got the cute little purple umbrella that was what all the natives used, especially the ladies. Everybody walked around with umbrellas in hot tropical places, and honestly, it is better than a hat. Umbrellas have much more coverage, and they're a fashion statement, so to speak. On the weekends, we didn't do any boat work, and so it was a great time to go and visit places around on the Essequibo coast. And so we discovered beaches, we discovered amazing plants. On one occasion, someone came over and took us for a ride to an island in the Essequibo River, and this island is called Tiger Island. Tiger Island is a really cool place because it's got a nice beach as far as Guyana beaches go, which the water is brown, it's not blue, and the water is really hot. And I would say the beaches are not that pleasant in Guyana. It would not be known for its beaches. But in Tiger Island, it was a beautiful sandy spot with green palm trees, and there was no one there because when the tide comes in, the beach disappears, and when the tide goes out, there's the beach again. I'm surprised Darshan was able to walk that much at 3.5, 4 years old. But he would walk with us a mile or two, and we would walk along the coast and see what we find. All along the coast, we saw palm trees that were starting to be eroded at the bottom because the water line was coming back into the shore, and where it was once black soil and dirt, now it's sand and beach. And any time now, those palm trees are just going to fall over because there won't be enough soil to support them. And I don't think that's due to global warming. One of the locals said that his grandfather had said that the water line was like 1,000 feet inland than where it is now. So apparently the water had receded out, and now it's slowly coming back in, and that just might be part of a bigger cycle that we don't really know about. In terms of culture, we got to experience that firsthand. I think the way that we were there as foreigners but yet mingling with the locals really gave us a more insider's view than a tourist that stayed for a week or two. Staying there for a longer period of time, we really got to taste the local characters and the culture of Guyana. Now, Guyana is mainly made up of Indians, blacks, and American Indians. All the races have intermingled, so people have a parent from one and another parent from another and a grandparent. I mean, it's all mixed up now, so it's actually pretty diverse. We were invited to a Hindu wedding. Now, I'd been to one Hindu wedding before in New York City, so I kind of knew what to expect, but Reid had never been to a Hindu wedding, so it was definitely a colorful event for him. We got all dressed up. The advantage of living on a boat is that all your stuff is there. I mean, that's where all my stuff was, and I happen to have this dress there that I'd never worn before, and it was now an excuse to take it out. And Darshan didn't really have clothes. I kind of had to put together something for him. And obviously we didn't have any going out shoes, but It's okay. And the people who's was hosting the wedding, their backyard was the beach. And so wearing slippers and flip-flops was just fine. So here's Reid eating out of the traditional lotus leaf plates with the full 7 curry food in there. Hindus make a thing called 7 curries, and it's seven separate dishes. And I don't know all of them, but it includes rice and dal and pumpkin and spinach and potatoes and achar, and I don't know what the 7th one is, but it's completely vegetarian and it's really delicious. They even offered Reid a plastic fork to go with his lotus leaf plate. And if you're cooking for a wedding and your pot is way too big for your stove, you take it outside and you put it on one of these contraptions and you just rustle up some wood from the surrounding area to burn, and you've got an outdoor stove. We were able to check our emails at the local cafe, well, not a cafe, at the local internet shop, and we got this email from Reid's sister saying, you have to come quick, your mom's in the hospital. So Reid flew out like the next day. He really didn't have that much time to prepare for this. He flew to New York City. Obviously he got there in less than a day. It's like pretty amazing that you can do that after being at sea for 30 days, getting to a place. So he got to New York City, and his mom was in the hospital, and he didn't make it in time to see her. She passed away right before he got there. So he stayed for the funeral, and then he said, no, I don't want my dad to go into a senior home. I'm gonna come back to North Carolina and take care of him. So Reid was gone for about a week, or a little less than a week. So Darshan and I stayed on the boat with a worker and his wife, and we actually had a pretty good time on the boat while Reid was attending his mom's funeral. When Reid got back, he just announced, we're going to North Carolina. We're sailing back and we're gonna go live there for a while. And I was like, what? New York City girl going to North Carolina? What? We didn't even talk about this. What do you mean? But I came around. It would be a good thing for us. Darshan would get to go to school and have a steady, kind of a steady lifestyle for a while, and I was ready to get off the boat for a while also, because boat living is hard, and I'm going to make another video about what it's like to live on a boat. So stay tuned for that. So we then had to go to a place called Wakenham, which is also in the Essequibo River. It's an island, and there we had our mast pulled out because there was a boatyard there, actually a tugboat yard, and they were able to have the equipment, a crane that would pull the mast out of the boat, lay it flat, where we worked on it for a couple weeks and then put it back in. While Reid was working on the mast, Darshan was going to school, and then he'd come home and he made a little buddy at school, so he was showing his buddy around the boat and how to cleat a rope, and they would play sometimes in his buddy's yard, which happens to be a house right next door to where the boat was docked. We got our rudder fixed. One time we were having lunch in our new place in Wakenham, and we smelled smoke, and we turned around and the boat behind us had caught on fire, and we had like front row seats watching people trying to put the fire out in this boat. It was a metal boat, so it got really hot. Everybody was dousing each other with buckets of water, running in and trying to put the fire out. They did get the fire under control and out. There was a lot of people working as a group, as a community. People just showed up from out of the woodwork to do this really fast. And that's just an example of how closely knit that community is. we sailed back to North Carolina, but we made one stop along the way. We stopped in St. Thomas, and we kind of looked around in the sites for about a day or two at the most, and then we reprovisioned. We got a bunch of vegetables and things, and off we went again to North Carolina. And the entire trip from Guyana back, including St. Thomas, took a little over 2 weeks. Well, that's the only thing I remember about our voyage back home from Guyana was that I had lice, and it was like the worst thing. But mayo works. Google it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed accompanying us on our time in Guyana and what we did as a family and all the wonderful things that we saw there, the wildlife, the people, the culture, and I hope you stay tuned for more videos. We don't intend on going on another boat adventure anytime soon, but we do have other things that we talk about. We do go to the boat on occasion throughout the year, and more videos coming soon. Bye!
Look down from your window, no big city lights, just greenery. I don't know what you come for. Listen up, my dear, we're such a man free. Welcome to the land of many faces, not one, not two, but 6 different races. You know when the sun kisses your skin, you're in the right place. G-U